Hello, Diane.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very well, very well. Thank you so much for agreeing to come onto this podcast. The reason I invited you on was two reasons. One, I saw you do an interview on Film Threat, which I really enjoyed, so I thought I want to explore that more. But also, you're an independent filmmaker, and you had a film out earlier this year called Easter Bloody Easter, which I want to talk about as well. But before we do all that, we always do at the start of the beginning, which is um, basically say your name is Diane Foster, basically your journey up until this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm so happy to be here. So thank you first and foremost.
Yeah.
Um, I'm Diane Foster. I am the founder of Wally Bird Productions. I grew up in on the East Coast in New Jersey, and I come from a very big family. I am the youngest of six, five girls, one boy. So there was a lot going on in my household. I was always into performing ever since I can remember. I was always trying to sing and dance, and my whole family really supported that from the very beginning. I started dancing when I was probably around 8 years old, and very quickly I got into very professional productions. Having the ability to grow up in New Jersey, right outside of Manhattan, it was an amazing place to grow up because I had access to great theater and great professors and professionals working in New York City who were teaching me how to sing, dance, and act. So I had a really wonderful education in my childhood in terms of the arts and entertainment. And I did a lot of theater in New York. I mean, tons and tons of theater while I was, in New York. And I had always wanted to do film. Very early on, I did all my high school plays, and I was a part of a wonderful program at a regional theater called the Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey, and they do phenomenal productions. And in my high school year, my senior year in high school, I played Princess Winifred in Once Upon a Mattress, and I was up against a girl who has become very famous. Her name is Anne Hathaway, and
Okay.
Anne and I went to conservatory together at the paper mill. And in my senior year, her junior year, we were up for the best actress in the state of New Jersey. Where we had the same role, but from different schools, and I won. And she never let me live it down, even till this day. She's won an Oscar. um, but it was such a fabulous childhood in terms of being able to just have the ability to perform as much as possible. And I think winning that award really gave me the inspiration and also the confidence to say, oh, I actually can do this, and this could be a career and something that I actually make a profession of mine. um, and pretty much not long after that, I moved to Los Angeles, and I've never left since. I've been in LA for 22 years now, which is wild to say. But when I first got out there, I was a professional dancer. So I worked on the original Pussycat Dolls show, which was a show prior to it becoming a girl group. I got very lucky in terms of the things that I was able to do and the jobs that I was able to get very early on. And then I sort of started to have my gaze and my focus go into film. And I really always wanted to do independent film, and really started to do it pretty quickly. My first film that I ever did, I produced and I starred in it. It was called Iowa, and it was about crystal methamphetamine in the Midwest. And that movie went to the Tribeca Film Festival and was an official selection. And that was my first film ever. So I was very young, in my early 20s, and just, totally gobsmacked about the idea that I had a film at the Tribeca Film Festival. So that really kind of put me on a trajectory of to be able to meet the right people and just keep making films. And that's what I continue to do. And then in 2018, I started my own company called Wally Bird Productions, named after my late brother, Wally, who passed away in 2018. And in a way to honor him and his life that was cut too short. And the reason I started it was because all these years I had been on set There weren't a lot of women, there weren't a lot of people of color, and I wanted to make sure that the stories that I was telling and the people that were on set were looking like the world that we live in. And that was very important to me, still is important to this day. And on every production we've ever been able to do at Wally Bird, we make sure that, you know, we have as many people of color on set, that we have as many, you know, female identifying women on set. You know, just we really try and we're trying to move the needle forward, and that's sort of how I've got here.
Oh, cool, cool. So we'll start with the short film that you made. I went to Tribeca. How, first of all, what was your idea? Like, how did you develop that idea to do that? Because that's quite a bold thing to do. I mean, I'm writing at the moment, and I'm just at that stage. And even though I think about, okay, this is how I want to be, that's a big step from thinking that to actually doing it. So, what was the genesis of your idea for that short film, and what made you think, actually, you kind of alluded to it last answer, but actually, I can actually make a short film out of this?
Yeah, so actually Iowa is a feature film. And so I didn't actually even begin in shorts. It was feature film right from the get-go. And I think there was a part of me that just had absolutely essentially no knowledge in a way. And I think that kind of that confidence when you don't really know what you're doing almost kind of helps, because it you just push yourself to do it. Um, and the thing was is at the time my partner who I had made the film with, he was from the Midwest. So he had written something about the things that he was seeing going on in the Midwest, because there were at that time methamphetamine, you know, a lot of people were making it. This is prior to Breaking Bad. This was like prior to a film called Spun, that dealt with crystal meth. But basically what he saw was a lot of people were having these like meth labs blow up on their farm, and he was like, what is this? So he wrote a script and, you know, let me read it. And I said, this is a really powerful script. I think we should make it. And I think it was just pure adrenaline that we were like, we're going to do this and we're going to figure out how to make a film. You know, neither one of us had ever made a film. Um, but we just sort of literally put the pieces together. And I think, you know, my best advice for anyone that's doing this is you have to believe in it fully more than anyone else. Because at the end of the day, you really are going to be the one who's going to get it done. And filmmaking is a team sport. There's no doubt about that. You absolutely need people who are supporting you, who are championing you, who are saying, I'm going to show up for long hours and tell this story with you. There's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, you really have to be your biggest cheerleader and keep showing up for yourself and believe in the project that you're trying to share, and that you're trying to write or film. You know, you have to believe in it first and foremost, and have unwavering commitment to it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just that, just like anything, if you don't give up on something, you don't give up. Eventually, you're gonna see it through, you know?
Yeah, yeah, indeed. And with regards to when he was picked up by Tribeca, was that someone from outside just saw the film, or did you have to enter it? Like, what was the process involved with that?
Yeah, so we had made a documentary that was sort of a companion piece to the film called at the time was called Poor Man's Dope. And it ended up becoming Dying for Meth. And that documentary is sort of what got people kind of interested, and what we had used for you know, just education on crystal methamphetamine altogether. We wanted to make sure we were telling a story that was, you know, actually happening to people, for the narrative feature. So had won a couple of awards for that. We won the Prism Awards, and it was basically what we got was best public service announcement. And we were this was had nothing to do with Tribeca. This is prior to that, and you know, that was up against CBS Cares and NBC's The More You Know, because they have these public service announcements. And what we were trying to share with people with this documentary was, hey, methamphetamine is a real thing. There's a 6% recovery rate. You need to know what's going on with this. It is a real thing that's really happening. And not only are people being addicted to this, but like this is how they get involved, this is how they can make it, all those things of just educating people. And from having, getting the award at the Prism Awards for that, we had already started making the script. And once we had made the film and we were done, we had hired on a sales agent, and we said, what should we do? Like, what's the best step to do this? And he had said, for distribution, the best thing is like, let's try and get it into film festivals. So we submitted it. We have incredible people in it. John Savage played my dad, who was in Deer Hunter, Hair. I mean, he's been in incredible films. We also had Rosanna Arquette in the film, and of course, having her involved was incredible. And then also Michael T. Weiss, who was on a show called The Pretender for many years. So we had a couple of more sort of like name people, I guess you could say, that were well known, and that definitely also gave us a leg up within the film festival, was securing those name talent and being able to have them part of the project. And they loved the script so much, and they were like, same thing that we felt, this was a really important story to tell. um, and you know pretty much we submitted, and then we got in. And because we had such a different type of film, and because of our subject matter, I think that it was very newsworthy and topical. So we got to be written about in the New York Post, and such a cool experience to be able to go to Tribeca Film Festival. And at one point, at the award ceremony, Robert De Niro is like mentioned the film Iowa, like while we were there. And I was like, very young person, very young filmmaker, to be able to have Robert De Niro mention your film was just like, oh my gosh, I've made it. And it felt really good. And we were able to get distribution for the film after that. And heavy subject matter, of course, so certainly not for everyone, but that really gave me a great idea of sort of how to figure out how to not only make something that is enjoyable and entertaining for audiences, but actually how you can monetize it and have it be part of your business, and something that you can actually keep a roof over your head with. um, and I think that's really, what all filmmakers hope, is that the projects they make will be able to do those two things, keep you being able to live and make more projects, but also entertain people, and maybe even inspire them, change their mind about something.
Yeah, I mean, when you're rolling off your tongue those actors that agreed to be in that film, the first thing that was going through my head is, I know you had a background in dance and theatre, but how on earth did you manage to convince them to do it? Because your first time film director, they've been doing films and TV for decades. That's quite a leap of faith for them to say yes. Were they your first choices, or how did that process come about?
Yeah, yeah, it was very interesting. So in the film, I was the producer and the star, and then my partner at the time was the director, writer, and he was also one of the stars in the film. And neither one of us had done much, so it was a huge leap of faith for them to absolutely come on board. We hired a casting director, and we had said, these are the people that we're looking, to go after. And actually, none of them were on the original list. And not because they're not absolutely fabulous, and I'm so glad that we did get them. It was just that I don't think we thought maybe we would be able to get more or less stars, so we kind of just went out to all kinds of different people, and the feedback that the casting director was getting back was, people really love this script, and people are like, this is an important story to tell. And it was, again, very, very cutting edge. It was prior to Breaking Bad, so people really weren't talking about crystal methamphetamine and what that really was. People kind of heard about it, but they didn't really know, like, oh, this is what it is. We just know that like barns are blowing up in the middle of nowhere. And why are they? Well, people are they're cooking meth. So yeah, they just we were able to, get them on board, because we had sent it to the agents, and they were like, yeah, we really love the script, and we want to do this. So it was a wonderful experience, because John Savage, who is such an incredible actor, played my dad. And in the film, and he was really lovely to work with and just gave me great advice. Really just like stick with it. Don't get discouraged. Keep going. This town is a marathon. It is not a sprint, and you have to keep going, and you have to just keep believing in yourself. So I really appreciated that. And then the same with Rosanna Arquette. She was absolutely incredible to me, and gave me similar advice of just, you can do this and you have to believe in yourself. And I just think having people, in your corner that have had so much success and have so many great films and television behind them, it felt great. And again, it was sort of like that boost of confidence, just like I had gotten when I was in high school by winning the Rising Star. I just felt like those kind of sort of affirmations were like, okay, you can do this, so keep going. And I know as creatives and artists, we kind of get down on ourselves so much because we hear no so much. And I think if we just can really believe in ourselves. That's why I say it's so important to be your own cheerleader, because if you just stay the course, then eventually you're going to find your way. There's just absolutely no way that you can't. So,
So you say about being your own cheerleader and obviously having that determination to do well. Obviously, that's in the making of a film, but is that also in the funding of it as well? Because I mean, I wouldn't know how much it cost, but especially when you're starting out, no one's going to give you a handout. So, how on earth would you fund something like that?
yeah, I think there is similar confidence that you have to have when funding. I think there's a couple of different things that filmmakers need to think about. And I think number one, it's how is this film going to live in the world, and who is my audience? And I think when you can narrow down who your audience is, the people that want to be behind you in terms of funding that film, it will make more sense on who you're going to go out to ask for funding. There are people who are interested in funding certain types of films. There are people who are interested in funding, certain types of filmmakers. So I think that it's really about getting very clear and very realistic of who am I, what is the story I'm telling, and who is my audience. Because when you can narrow that down, you can really start to go, okay, these are the people, this is the team of people that I'm going to build around me. And specifically, obviously, that starts with funding, because you have to have funding to be able to do projects, of course. I've done every kind of budget level, in the indie world that I think you possibly can do. Um, from $11,000 for a feature film to a couple $1 million for a feature film. So I think knowing sort of where you sit in there, you don't need a ton of money to make a great film. You really don't. I think it's just, you really thinking very clear about what this movie is and who my audience is. And I think it'll kind of just, it's one of those things like little breadcrumbs. They just kind of just, you just start to piece it together once you ask those questions of yourself and you're able to answer them honestly. And the answer is not everyone in the world is going to love my film, because of course, as filmmakers, we want everyone to love our film,
Yeah.
but that's not the case. And not everyone is going to. We all have an opinion on films. So when you really narrow it down and you go, no, this is really who my audience is, it really, really helps you to be able to compartmentalize and say, okay, these are the right people that I should be going after. Maybe this is a film about cooking. Maybe I can go after people who are interested in funding things that are, about cooking, or maybe I go directly to restaurants or whatever it might be, to sort of try and think in terms of the reality of your film. I think that's always a really, really great place to start.
Is it easier to a certain degree to fund films now? Because now you've got like social media, you can help promote your film and also crowdfunding. Does it make it slightly easier, or the challenges remain the same?
Yes, I think funding is always going to be a thing for film. I think art and commerce meeting together is always sort of the difficult thing for creatives to figure out.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that it has gotten a lot easier in terms of really and truly essentially there's no excuse anymore because we have so much access to an audience. I mean, we can talk directly to an audience. We can create content that is directly for an audience, and we can reach them ourselves now. So I do think that we have gotten way far away from when I first began. I mean, Iowa, we shot on actual film, which was crazy to think about that. I don't film anything now on film, it's all digital, because it's very expensive to film on actual film. And I know certain filmmakers certainly do, that work with the studios and, are famous filmmakers and they can afford that. But I think as an indie filmmaker, you know, you really truly do not have an excuse anymore to say, well, I can't get my film out or this, that, and the other. I mean, you could literally make a film and put it out yourself on Amazon Prime if you really want, so, and you can utilize social media to promote it, to get, influencers to talk about it. So I think that you have so much access now. And I think utilizing it and looking at it as a tool as opposed to, oh shoot, I don't know how to do this, or it's overwhelming or anything like that. Literally look at it as a tool that you can use to promote your film. And the thing I always say about film is it's an exhibition art. So people have to see it in order
Mm.
for you to show your art. People have to see your movie. So as many places as you can get for people to see your movie, do it. Whether that's putting up your own website and putting it up and sending it out to everyone. You never know where that's going to lead. You never know one person who will either A, be affected by your film. It could change their life for the better. It could literally save their life. So when you think in terms of that, you just try and get your movie out everywhere that you possibly can. And I think that really is the name of the game in 2024, with being a content creator and figuring out the difference between social media and a filmmaker and an artist and a creative, of just really utilizing what we have with social media and not looking at it as a negative thing, but really looking at it as a tool that you can use to promote you and your project.
Yeah, because I've spoken in previous episodes about independent art, and I don't know if you agree with me, but and I'm not just talking films, it could be spoken word, which I used to do many years ago, or TV, or whatever it may be, or books. I just wonder, I don't think maybe you agree or disagree with me, but enough people use access to the actual platforms to create their own independent art. Like, there's a lot of things people talk about cancel culture and whatnot, which I think happens. But then part of me is thinking, well, if this was 20 years ago, it would have been harder for you to get back on the train. Whereas now, you can self-publish if you're an author, independent filmmaker, and raise money yourself. Do you agree that not enough people are actually utilizing the actual platforms that they've got at their disposal?
I definitely agree with you 100%. I think people are sometimes maybe afraid or don't know how to utilize social media, or are in their head about it. I have tons of friends and filmmakers, friends who are like, I just don't know how to utilize social media. And that's okay. I think if you can just kind of get really clear with, again, what your film is and what you're trying to say, purpose and having a perspective, I think is really somewhere that will take you everywhere where you need to go. And I think that's really the difference of, hey, I just want to make films and be known for making films, or I have a purpose and I have a perspective, and this film has a perspective, and I want to get this out to audiences because of XYZ. Then I think you're on the right track and you can figure out how to utilize social media to get more eyeballs on your film. And, I think the other thing is that we have to remember that so many people are on social media and there is an algorithm, and you do have to be consistently posting and you do have to be consistently putting yourself out there. And yes, is it a full-time job? Absolutely. Because no matter whether or not you're using social media, or back in the day you were putting an ad out in the newspaper, it's still work. So you have to look at it as that you're promoting it. The only thing that's different is now we have access right in the palm of our hands,
Mm.
and we can do it. So like I said, I just don't think there's an excuse anymore for filmmakers. And I don't think enough people are utilizing it, to put themselves out there, as much as they possibly could.
Yeah. It's interestingly, one of the things you said at the start was you talked about getting more people of color in your crew and getting more women in part of your crew. Now, one of my favorite directors currently is Steve McQueen, obviously directed 12 Years a Slave. But then
Yeah.
I knew how good he was because I think that was his third film. I'd watched the two films he did before that, Shame and Hunger. And
Mm.
the thing for those who don't know who Steve McQueen is, Steve McQueen's black. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because regardless of, he does films. So he done one called Widows after that as well. He's done some stuff for the BBC. And I say that because do you think there's a danger with you being a female director and actually people of colour that you almost become stereotyped in terms of the types of films that you're expected to make? So, for example, I know
Mm.
what an example that's a bit out there, but say the Barbie film, which I've never seen, but I know a lot of people would have thought, "Oh, it's directed by Greta Gerwig. Oh, yeah, well, of course, she's a woman would direct that film." Does that know what I mean? So that sort of. Do you think there's an issue with that you're almost expected because of you're a woman that you're expected to make a particular type of film, and people don't trust you enough to deviate from that?
Yes and no. I think that as a woman filmmaker, I think the conversations around even actually being able to make films, we are so far behind in terms of how many female directors there are and how many actually get opportunities. So I do think in terms of just the overall, being able to tell female driven stories is so important. But I don't think that you will get pigeonholed for anyone who wants to be a filmmaker, um, unless you allow that. And I think that's really the truth at the end of the day. I think we all make choices and we can all decide and say, well, these are the types of films that I want to do. And, maybe not everyone will always jump on board of the thing that you're trying to do, but it's almost very similar to what I did with Easter Bloody Easter. It's not really typical for a female director to do a horror comedy. It's
Mm,
just not, it's pretty rare. And that's what I love. I love the challenge of it actually. And I love being able to tell people, yeah, no, I did do that. And yeah, it might be totally out of the norm of what you would expect from a female director. Um, but I'm up for that challenge. And, I think I'm here to make the world a better place through cinema. And I know that's my purpose. And I think as long as I'm clear with that, then, I don't think I could ever truly get typecast or, made to feel that I have to make a certain type of film. I think that's the one benefit of being independent is that
mm,
I have the ability to say, well, these are the types of projects I want to be involved in. And if you can hold true to that, and it's certainly not easy, believe me, it is not easy, because I have to keep a roof over my head too. But at the end of the day, I always want to make things that make the film better and are for the film. So whatever that means, it's always about the film. So I hope honestly and truly that as we go on, I can be one of the people that does push the needle forward in getting more female filmmakers to make films, to get more people of color on set, to tell their stories, to have it be the world that we live in. The world is made up of all kinds of people from all over the world. And I think being able to see that reflected in cinema, being able to see that reflected both in front and behind the camera, like we always say, representation matters. And, you know, if people think that's cheesy or whatever, it's the truth. When you see yourself, you can see yourself. And I think that's a huge thing, especially for the next generation of young people of color and young women, is to be able to see themselves, which they haven't historically been able to. So I think that it's our duty as filmmakers and artists to reflect the times that we're living in, to talk about the things that we need to talk about, to make a difference, to inspire people and really change the world as much as we can. um through the art form that we choose. And I'm grateful that I get to do it. I really am. It's something that you know, I I I live and get so excited about. I keeps me up at night sometimes thinking about all the projects that I want to make and all the people I want to work with, and all the opportunities that that I can hopefully afford others, um, with the opportunities that I've been given. So yeah.
Obviously, you said about keeping a roof over your head and being independent. If the right project came along, would from a studio, would you make it bearing in mind that some of that control might be ceded?
Yes, I do think I would. I think because, I would absolutely love that, first of all, because I think it would, sort of elevate the things that I'm already doing. And I think that that's the thing of why filmmakers in the past have gone on to do studio films, especially when they've come from an independent background. Um, Having that kind of backing behind you is really huge. I know with even putting out Easter Bloody Easter, having a distributing partner was incredible. I couldn't do it on my own. So being able to have, the partners that we do have in all over the world, we're still worldwide. So we have different partners in different countries, and, them coming on board has made it so that the more eyeballs, can see this film. And like I said earlier, it's an exhibition art. So as you want as many people as you possibly can. So I think given the opportunity for a studio to come to me and say, hey, like we would love to work with you, or hey, would you want to do something with us? I think it would be an incredible experience. And I think, yes, I would totally understand that maybe it wouldn't be fully my say, but I don't think it really truly ever is at the end of the day, because you're always working with a group of people. And I think there is a give and a take in film and any kind of art that is a team sport. At the end of the day, you're all working together to create the best story. And I think the best directors are the ones who are open to feedback, the ones who are open to saying, okay, I can see that from that perspective, and really being open and not being someone who is closed off or not wanting to take others advice. Doesn't mean you have to take it, certainly, but I do think being open to it will always, always help you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to making a studio film at some point. Call me, call me Paramount, call me Netflix.
But in regards to giving advice and obviously having that honesty and that dialogue, is that something you consider when you choose the crew that you're going to be working with on films? I take it that it is.
Oh, Oh yeah. I mean, it is so important to put together a really, close-knit, great group of people. And I think the energy has to be right. Some people just don't vibe, and it could be just on a certain project. I've had people that I've worked with on one project that don't work for another project. And it doesn't have anything to do with their ability. It doesn't have anything to do with me liking them or anything like that. It just wasn't the right vibe. And I think one of the things that I love doing as a producer is I love putting teams of people together. It's like the thing that I get so excited about, because I'm like, "Oh, this person would be so good with this person." And I love connecting people and saying like, you guys need to work together, and we can do this. And I think you should direct this, and you'd be perfect with this writer. And um it's exciting to be able to do that, and recognize which vibes is which. And it's really important when you're putting together your team of people. I know for Easter Bloody Easter, I talked to every single person that was going to be on that set, whether they were, from cinematographer to somebody who was literally, passing out water to people, because it's so important that every single person, number one, feels important, and that their job actually matters on a set, because it does. We do need that person passing out water. And you might look at that as totally insignificant, but it really makes a difference. You have long days, 12 to 14-hour days on a set, and keeping the morale high, keeping the vibes good, and keeping the good positive energy. After all, we are making movies. So we should be having fun while we're doing it. And, we should be recognizing that it is a creative endeavor. And when you can have those high vibes, I think that you can really make magic. And by the time you get, to being on set, you should be totally prepared. Your movie is totally made in pre-production so that by the time you get on set, you just get to have fun and play and, really enjoy the experience. So I think that, the people that you decide to put on your team, yeah, you really have to make sure that they're the right ones and that the vibes are good and it makes sense for the project. Absolutely.
Well, it kind of reminds me of an interview I saw with Quentin Tarantino, where he was talking about when he was first starting out as a filmmaker. He went to Sundance, and he said, "I've got this vision, but I'm struggling to how I'm going to work it on the set." And I think one of the speakers there was Terry Gilliam, and basically Terry said, "Well,
Mhm.
hire people that are going to carry out your vision for you. Don't try and do everything because you can't." And I think that's similar to
Yes.
what you're saying: is get the right people that you're going to vibe with and going to bring your vision to fruition.
Absolutely. I've seen that video and it's fabulous. And he's always so great about dropping nuggets for filmmakers, through his own experience. And I think that's absolutely correct. You do have to rely on others, to make a film. It's not just you and it's not just your vision. I think, the best types of films are, ones that there are a lot of collaborators who are coming together and, making decisions and offering suggestions because I think just like anything else, we all have a different background. You and I have a completely different background, the way we grew up, the way that we've lived in the world. And I think having that information when you're making a project, especially a film, which is about human life, is really important to be able to rely on others and say, Chris, tell me about your experiences. And maybe that can inform something that is happening in that movie that I wouldn't have known or I wouldn't have thought about because I didn't have that experience, living in the world. So I do think it is super important putting together the right team and really relying on the people that you've put in that position to really trust that, not only are they going to bring your vision as the director through, but they're also going to bring the elements of who they are, into the film and into the project.
Well, Easter bloody Easter. Where on earth did you get the inspiration to do a film like that?
I know everybody asks me that. They're like, "Why demon bunnies in a jackalope?" So, the thing is Allison LaBelle, who wrote the film, and Kelly Grant, who plays Carol in the film with me against my Jeannie. We were very good friends and we started an acting school together in Beverly Hills. And we had done a play together that we did in Beverly Hills, and then we took that play to San Francisco and it did really well. And we were going to continue actually doing the play, all over the country. And unfortunately, COVID happened. So the entire world shut down. And because we couldn't do a play, we had talked about, well, maybe we could spend this time actually creating a film based on these characters in the play that we really enjoy playing. It was from a play called Laundry and Bourbon from James McClure, which is a 2-act play. First act is Laundry and Bourbon, second act is Lone Star, and it has 3 men and 3 women in it. And these characters we just really loved. It took place in Texas. And so a lot of the characters and the elements from Easter Bloody Easter were sort of pulled from that and from the experience that we had really enjoying and doing this play. And once we started working on the film, really and truly, it was Allison LaBelle who took it and really turned it on its head and said, I think that we should put it in Texas. It should be at Easter time. They're all scared of this giant jackalope and demon bunnies, and they're just being terrorized over Easter weekend. And when she first sent me the script, I literally laughed out loud the entire time. And I said, this is something that people and audiences will really, really love. And I had spent some time in the horror genre prior. I had made a film called The Orphan Killer, and that was an Orphan Killer 1. And then we did a sequel to it, The Orphan Killer 2. And I got the opportunity to meet a lot of horror fans at conventions over those years that I did those films. And horror fans are some of the best fans in the entire world. They go hard for the films that they love, and they go really hard for the people in those films. And I just knew that it was something when I read it, we had something that was really special that actually had never been done before in terms of a horror comedy. There was no other horror comedy specifically geared toward Easter. There were some other Easter films, where you have a killer bunny or whatever, but there wasn't anything in particular that we had these demon bunnies that had our villain who is a giant jackalope who is super funny. And just creating the elements of both the comedy and the horror and bringing them together and then putting at Easter time. We knew we were in our own lane and that there was nothing that had been done for that holiday before. So it really made sense from a great business perspective, certainly, but also I thought this is going to be really fun to do. And I think that I can really make this something that audiences are going to enjoy and really laugh at. The film really knows what it is. It knows what it is. It does not think that it's something else. It does not think it's too posh or too this or too that. It knows it's a horror comedy. And I think that's what's so fun about it, is that it just, everyone who watches it says to me they laughed from beginning to end. And, as much as the movies that I make that are, I want to inspire people and change the world, I also want to entertain people. And I think the best compliment you can get is when somebody watches your film for an hour and a half and they said, "Oh man, I loved it. It was heartwarming. It was funny. I laughed. I just had a darn good time." And I'm like, what's better than that? you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's really how it began, and we were off to the races once we were in development for a little while on the script to really get it into shape to be able to shoot. And once we had that, we were off to the races.
So just remind people, how long ago was that actually film released?
So we filmed the movie in 2021 and we just released it this past March of 2024. It officially came out this March, very close to Easter. Yeah.
Has anyone that you well known or you inspired by actually watched the film and actually given you feedback and said, actually, we really enjoy this. This is a weird concept, but we like weird and therefore just think it's absolutely wonderful that what you've done.
Yeah, it's mainly been distributors who I've been able to talk to about the film, which I really appreciate because they put movies out to audiences all the time. So they have a direct relationship with audiences and what audiences want to see. And we got tremendous feedback from all the distributors. We eventually went with, in the US and Canada, we went with Gravitas Ventures, who's an amazing company. They've been a great partner to be able to put the film out. And then we have other partners in other, parts of the world. We're out in the UK. We are going to be out in Italy. And we are also out in Latin America. So, just being able to get the feedback actually from the distributors was a big deal because I think them knowing that audiences will love this film was really huge. In terms of, other filmmakers, I mean, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time is Ava DuVernay, and I love her so much, and I would be so grateful for her to watch Easter Bloody Easter. But she makes some really really tough subject matter, incredible films. She made a film this past year called Origin that I just absolutely wept and loved so, so much. Um, she's incredible, but if she were to watch the film, please, Ava, watch the film. I would certainly hope that she would enjoy it and have a good time, watching it. But I will say so many great professionals that I'm inspired by that happen to be dear friends or people that I have worked with in the past that have seen it have reached out to me and said, I'm so proud of you. This is such an achievement. It's so much fun. It's a great watch. And so many people have said to me they're excited for me to continue the story because we are planning on doing it as a franchise. We've already written the second script. Allison already has it ready to go. So we are definitely going to make at least two more of these movies. So we'll see. But the Easter Bloody Easter franchise is open for business. So we're gonna do it, and we're gonna just expand the story world and keep going because we really think it's something that audiences will continue to enjoy, you know, every year, not just at Easter, but it's really something you can watch anytime.
That's good to know. That's good to know. And it actually leads on to my next question, which is, what are you hoping to make in the future? I know you've talked about Easter, but Easter, there's going to be two more sequels of that. But in terms of subject matter, do you have any, without going into too much detail, but do you have any subjects where you think, actually, I've written something about this and I want to make a film about it?
Yeah, so I have so many projects ahead. It's fantastic. The next 2 years at Wally Bird Productions are really, really busy. We have a film that we're actually currently in pre-production on right now, and it's called Got Daddy Issues. It is a female comedy. And it really talks about the female relationship, and her first relationship with men is usually her father, and sort of how that grows into her adult life. It's absolutely fantastic, written by female filmmakers and directed by them as well. We are planning on shooting beginning in September, so we are literally right now in heavy pre-production on that. um, I'm producing that film, and I'm also going to be acting in it, so that's going to be fun. Then top of 2025, I'm currently working on directing a movie musical, which is a dream come true of mine. I grew up, like I said, singing and dancing and acting, and watching movie musicals, Gene Kelly, I just singing in the rain, and anything that he ever did, I loved. I'm a musical theater geek, so I love musical theater. So it just made sense. And this film is about the SATs that you take as standardized tests. In the US, we take them to get into college, and it is the acronym for stupid ass test. So SAT, the movie musical, is currently in production and development as well. And then I have a couple of documentaries that I'm really, really excited about. We have one called Does My Vote Count?
Okay.
And it is about people who have been disenfranchised, specifically people who have been incarcerated, the disability community. Um, you know, we talk a lot about how we want people to go out and vote, but it's not easy for everyone to do that. And the documentary explores that, why that is, and why it's been made so that it's not easy for everyone to go out and vote. But of course, how important our vote is, and that is really where we can truly make a difference, and the power that we have in that. So that explores that. That's currently in the editing and post-production. And then we have another amazing documentary called Weaving a Beautiful Death. And it is about a woman who has an autoimmune disease that she's lived with since she's been very young. And every day she is literally fighting for her life. And she is a weaver. So she started to weave her own casket. And she did this with her family members. And we have spent several years, filming the process, talking about death, the way that we view death in society, how different cultures view death. So it's a pretty interesting subject matter. And so, we're kind of doing all different genres at Wally Bird Productions. And that's something that I really love. I don't want to be pigeonholed into one thing. And I love that question that you asked me before of, do you think that that will sort of be the thing that you can only do this? And I don't think so, because I'm already not. And I'm already making it apparent that I don't want to do that. I want to be able to talk about all kinds of different projects and all different kinds of human life.
Oh, good. That's really good. And you mentioned Ava
Yeah.
DuVernay there as an inspiration. What directors have you been inspired by, both present and in the past?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely Patty Jenkins. I think she's one of the most incredible. I loved Wonder Woman. I think she is such an incredible storyteller. That's one of the best, I think, female superhero movies there is. And I love superhero movies. So she's been an incredible one. Catherine Bigelow is also another one who is wonderful. I love Melina Matsoukas. Um, who did Queen and Slim. I don't know if you've seen that film, but it's absolutely incredible. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it. Written by Lena Waithe, absolutely incredible. And certainly I have been inspired by Tarantino, absolutely. Scorsese, sure. I mean, you can't really, I think, think about the movies of the last 30 years without mentioning their names. And of course, Steven Spielberg as well. I mean, the things they've been able to do with the films that they've put out, obviously incredible. But you know, I I think that there's a shift happening in terms of, more and more female filmmakers. And I like to go out and support them as much as I can. Whenever I do see female filmmakers having something out, I do try and support it as much as I can, whether it's a share on my story or a comment or even being able to go to a screening or things like that. I think sometimes we forget we're all in this together and we all have to really support one another. And if you can, as a filmmaker, support other people because they will also support you when the time comes when your film is out. And I think it's a give and a take, and we should definitely do that. It doesn't hurt us by supporting others. There's room for all of us, and I think you should.
Yeah, one of the shifts that has happened. I don't know if you agree, and maybe this is something that you might be inspired by as well. Is how global the film industry has become. In that, there's always been films from outside Anglosphere, but the attention that's been on them the last 20 years has just been incredible. Particularly, especially from mainland Europe and the Far East, like South Korea and Japan. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. I feel like we know so many more people and filmmakers now than we ever did. And of
Mm.
course, that is also the advent of social media and streaming and the ability to be able to see more and more films from different countries and being able to be, to become a fan of someone that you never even knew. I think that's a huge benefit of social media. We know now more than ever, and we now know that more people exist that want to tell stories, and that there are so many different cultures and stories to tell. So sometimes I do think it can become a little overwhelming because there's so many great things out and there's just so much time in a day that you can absolutely see something. um but I do think, the ability of knowing that, people are out there, and you can support them, something, a retweet or whatever, that goes a long way of getting, other people to like your things. I know for us on Easter Bloody Easter, I'm always telling people, please give us a thumbs up and a rating, and, go on Rotten Tomatoes and give us the 5-star rating. And, give us a review, and go on Amazon Prime, and if you liked it, just give us that thumbs up. It really does help, especially in the independent landscape, for you to be able to stand out. It goes a long, long way. So, and it doesn't really take much. It's free to support someone, to do that, to leave a comment, or just to be kind. I think that goes a long, long way. And I think we just need more of it, and more filmmakers supporting each other, and knowing that there really is room for all of us. And we need it. We need to be able to have that as an indie filmmaker, because we don't have necessarily the money that a studio has behind us. So if you can do it in that way, then, absolutely shout it from the rooftops, tell all your friends, and get your audience to back up another filmmaker.
I know we're almost coming towards the end, sadly, because it's been a real inspiration talking to yourself. But I was wondering, in terms of anyone listening to this that wants to direct films in the future, is just starting out, what would be your advice to them?
Mm. I think that making movies is not easy, and I'm going to just start off there. That I think the idea of knowing that getting any movie made is actually a miracle because there's so many different moving parts to it. But I don't want that to deter anyone. I want them to look at that, and when they've done it, really be proud of themselves that they've done it, because it is something that you have to be continuously fighting for to make happen. So I would say the best advice I can give is, number one, make sure that you really believe in the story that you're going to tell, because most likely you're going to be living with this story for maybe 3 years of your life, being able to get the funding to actually film the movie, to go through post and then through distribution. So hopefully you really like it
Mhm.
because you're going to have to watch it a lot, and you're going to want to promote it. So make something that you can't not make. That's definitely one piece of advice. That you just can't live without making it, I think is a really important place to start. And then I think I would say, really, truly believe in yourself. And that totally might sound cliche, but it is the truth. If you do not believe in yourself, then no one else that you're going to potentially get on board is going to believe in it. So you have to really want it, want it more than anyone else, and know that you're going to do it no matter what. Come hell or high water, you are going to make this happen. And if it's not with this person, okay, you just kindly move them out of the way and you go to the next. And you just keep going. And when you hear no, you just know that that wasn't the right person. It wasn't a no to you or to the thing that you're trying to do. Be absolutely unapologetic in believing in the thing that you're doing. And if you are that, I promise you it is going to happen. And I will definitely be somebody who is cheering for you and from the audience when you do it, because I think that's the most beautiful thing, is when a filmmaker believes in themselves no matter what, and they have to do it, and they have to tell this story, and they're going to make it happen no matter what. So that's really the best advice I can give, is really believe in yourself, because that's really truly where it begins.
I talk about a lot of serious topics on this podcast, so things I need to be discussing. But I also want to talk about fun and be inspirational as well. I want not the dark and the light, and so it's nice to hear someone who's just fought and fought and fought and has this passion and just wants to get it out there, and is inspiring others just by his interview, by people hearing your words and actually saying, "Yes, I can do it," and so on and so forth. So thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. If people want you to find your work, where can they go to? And what's the website? Wally Bird Productions. What's the web address for that?
Yes. So please follow me on social media, because I love meeting new people. And by the way, I do answer direct messages, I do answer comments. So if you comment to me, I will get back to you. I love that, especially if you've seen my films. Like, please let me know and tell me what you think. I love that. You can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Diane Foster Official. And also on Facebook at Diane Foster Official. You can also find me at Wally Bird Productions. That's Wally Bird, WALLYBIRD. And then you can check out our website, which is wallybirdproductions.com. We have a YouTube, we have an Instagram, and we're just building, building, building. And we're reaching for the stars. And, we just think, that people are going to love the things that we're doing. And I would love for you to come and say hi to me. So please do. And thank you so much for having me. And I do hope that it's been inspiring. I'm inspired by so many people that have come before me. And, um, you know, I think if we can offer that to each other, then we should. So thanks so much for having me. This has been really, really fun.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on to today's project. It's been an absolute pleasure.